Seems Lady Susan will finally visit.
Lady Susan Vernon.
That woman's a fiend.
Congratulations on being about to receive the most accomplished flirt in all England.
Excuse me for arriving this way. What a delightful family pose.
Hi everyone, I'm Denisa and I'm here with the fan carpet at the red carpet premiere for Love and Friendship. Stay with us as tonight we will be interviewing the attending talent.
Love and Friendship is basically about a young widow who is trying to kind of secure her future, which at that time meant finding an eligible husband, and she's not really prepared to sort of settle for just that because she quite likes other boys as well, and generally getting her own way in every area of her life. So that she's sort of unusual for the time period in that she's kind of going for that at all times, and it's very funny.
Well, I think the real challenge were a plethora of riches. So it took me a long time to decide not to use a lot of funny material that wasn't quite as lively and dramatic and spunky as what we tried to, excuse the word spunky, I shouldn't say that, it's quite as lively and funny and witty as the other thing. So it's just paring down the comedy because her original is extremely funny, but also quite wordy. And so at film you have many fewer words, many fewer things.
What I really love about Love and Friendship is that we have a woman who doesn't behave particularly well, and she doesn't get punished for it, because I think we're so used to watching films where if a woman just deviates slightly from being super virtuous, she goes up in flames, and I think that's what's really interesting about it. You know, she doesn't get her comeuppance, she succeeds, she does it, so that's what's different, I think.
Were you familiar with the source material before you got this role?
Well, yes, I love Jane Austen. Those kind of dramas. I love character-driven pieces. I love ensemble casts, so it was a real pleasure to be part of this.
Well, I've read Jane Austen, but it's an unfinished novel, so the material was there. But I really think it's about the script that Whit has written, and going from that material and going with his vision. I think Jane Austen really speaks through the material because it's her. Some of the dialogue is originally hers, but I didn't specifically go. I think that can be a distracting thing to get too embroiled in the original research or resource material. I actually wasn't. No, I had no idea that she had these letters and Lady Susan sort of unfinished novel before I got sent the script.
So it was quite new to you?
Yeah, completely new, and it was sort of actually quite nice to discover it and to read both the letters and the novel, or novella as it's called, once I'd read the script and sort of get into it.
I think it's really funny material, so although she didn't fully complete it in her sense, and it's not that widely known, it really includes really gems of comedy. And I think it's good for people to see how funny Jane Austen can be. And I loved Oscar Wilde, and this is like Jane Austen channeling Oscar Wilde.
Can you tell me a bit about the character? You're playing a widow, single mother.
Yeah.
What would you say her strengths would be?
She's the best manipulator I think I've ever come across. She's ruthless. She has no low self-esteem, no questioning of herself. She's completely secure in her judgment, and she's, she's very funny how much she just sort of goes for what she wants. She tends to kind of land on her feet, which is what's quite delicious about the character. She doesn't really get punished for being naughty, which normally women in these kind of periods tend to die a horrible death for being promiscuous, but she doesn't. I mean, I love the fact that she's one of those characters that you kind of despite yourself like, rather than she's terribly likable at first. You know, she's very much herself, and it's a really nice thing to play a character that's got lots of different things to it. I feel that Lady Susan probably had a harder start in life than Frederica. Like, she's obviously had to be manipulative to survive, and I don't know if Frederica would eventually develop that, or she's just not made. I don't think Frederica's a particular survivor. Whereas Lady Susan, you know, in an apocalypse, she'd be there at the end. You know, if the zombies came in, she'd survive. But Frederica, I think, would die pretty soon.
But I'm sure she has her own strengths.
Yes, absolutely. Well, she's kind, which I think is a thing that's constantly undervalued. Like, she sees the good in everyone, and she's lovely to everyone. And even when she's suffering and having everyone be horrible around her, she doesn't succumb to that. So I think that strength of character is really wonderful, and it was great to play someone like that.
I think she's a very pure character, and she means very well, but I think that it's actually to her detriment that she doesn't speak up enough. She's sort of a woman of her time rather than, so she just keeps quiet and doesn't really sort of push. She doesn't really say what she needs to say in order to help everyone. I play Mrs. Cross, who's an entirely invented character on Whit Stillman's part. She is the impoverished friend of Lady Susan. She's used and abused by her, completely exploited, and kind of demonstrates her Lady Susan's, I suppose, more manipulative ways. So she comes to the house with Lady Susan and unpacks her bags and takes her luggage and irons her dresses, but doesn't get paid. I would say speak up for yourself. Don't be getting manipulated by this person. Yeah, because she's down on her luck and she's been separated from her husband, so she's kind of beholden to this woman to try and survive in the same way that Lady Susan is. So there's a parallel between them, but I think my character's a little bit more gormless.
I'm the boring old bloke who's the father of the nice bloke.
How did you get attached to the project, and why
I auditioned, and Whit picked me. That was pretty much it. She's hysterical. Her emotions are quite high. She's madly in love, and she feels it's being taken away from her, as you can imagine. She doesn't bottle any emotions up. She says how she feels. She lets it out, which is admirable, I think. So I play the character of Frederica, and she's a very quiet, sweet, introverted girl who is thrown into situations that she's not ready for. So she's 16 years old and she's at a horrible boarding school and knows she's going to be married to this man that she doesn't love, and she runs away to try and make it better, but in the end ends up being in the same house as this man she's meant to be married to. It's a story about a mother and a daughter, really, though, who have no control over their lives. They have no money, and the only way that they can get it is by getting married to someone. And Lady Susan isn't necessarily the kindest character, doesn't necessarily do it in the best way, but ultimately she doesn't want her daughter to be impoverished. So yeah, I think that's the gist.
If you have to advise that old bloke something, what would you advise him?
My character?
Yeah.
Oh, loosen up. Yeah, get down with the kids, man.
Oh.
Grow a beard. The cameraman's got a beard, so get down with the kids. Go a bit hipster.
Do you think he's missing out in a way? Okay, I'll capture it.
No, I think those people are the backbone of England. They are the reason that he's honest and kind and good, and probably a lot of things that I'm not and should be.
Lady Susan Vernon, we based Love and Friendship on the novella Lady Susan. She's very neutral for a Jane Austen character. She's sort of a bigger version of Mary Crawford from Mansfield Park. She's kind of the evil, manipulative version of Emma, and strangely, she's much more likable than Emma. I mean, people have a lot of problems with Emma as a heroine, and it's strange that Lady Susan Vernon, with all her manipulativeness and evil, is actually more likable in a strange way.
I'm reading her at the minute, and she's just an amazing woman who's sort of trying to make the world beautiful and trying to do her best, and she's kind of controlling, but she means it in a lovely way, and I just think that would be great.
When I read the script, I thought it was a really exciting script, and it's funny and joggles along, and it's cruel. It's cruel and compassionate at the same time.
He's incredibly clever. He's really, really funny. He's got an amazing sense of what's funny and what's kind of broadly funny and what's very subtly funny. And he's a one-off. He's just like there's nobody like Whit. So when he puts his stamp, he's got a very particular sensibility. And when he puts his stamp on something like this, you know, it's really exciting to see what he does with it.
I mean, the script is incredible. Really, really funny. It reads beautifully, and also I was a huge fan of Whit Stillman beforehand. So it was just an honour to sort of be included in it, to be honest, yeah.
How was it working with him?
It's great. I think he's a fantastic director. I think he's a genius. He has a really distinct way of working, and I really, really enjoyed it. He knows exactly what he wants, and he's great at communicating to actors what he wants and sort of getting the final results.
I'll just say that he was a very kind and intelligent director, and everybody liked him very much. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it, both of them, where it was a privilege to work with both.
You've worked with someone before. Was it a different type of relationship 10, 15 years back?
I mean, a bit in the sense that the first time I worked with him was my first ever American movie, and it was the first time I ever did an American accent, and I felt very much out of water in terms of it was his social milieu that he knew very well, and I didn't feel like that on this because I'd read quite a bit of Jane Austen and grew up in England, so I felt a little bit more on my own territory there. Kate was absolutely lovely on set, and just the whole gang, like, all together,
everyone was just so clever, so funny, so witty, and just so up for enjoying themselves. So for me, like, being around all these actors I'd admired for years and just like listening to them chat was just wonderful.
The comic performances are the strength. The script and the Jane Austen comic material and the comic performances. We have a lot of really wonderful comic actors in it, and I think they're, some of them are become stars from the film. It's already happening with Tom Bennett, who plays Sir James Martin. He plays the silly, wealthy man who comes and is the target of everyone's attentions as a potential rich husband.
Some of Kate's lines were really hilarious in the trailer. And you mentioned that people might be able to like her more than Emma. Would you say it is because that they, in a way, relate to her?
Yes, I think, people like that movie Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and this is sort of the female version, where even though they're really not doing admirable things, we sort of enjoy being along for the ride, and so we enjoy being along for this ride. And actually nothing really bad happens except to one character.
No, I think they're generally very well written and very well drawn characters, and in the case of this one's really funny, so I think that's why people are enjoying it.
I think people nowadays are still concerned with the same things, aren't they? Like who they're going to get married to and how much money they're going to get. It's probably a universal theme.
It's important to work with the movie stars you know and love, and they are the movie stars I know and love. And so there was a really good dynamic when we shot Last Days of Disco, but later I kind of regretted the bitterness of the rivalry between the two characters in Last Days of Disco. And this is sort of a more fun project because they're allies, they're partners, they're sort of laughing collaborators in this, and it made it a sweeter dynamic.
What's up next?
I'm in this play with a beard, and then that finishes next week, and then I'm at work. So.
What play is that?
Les Blancs. It's at the Olivier Theatre on the South Bank of London.
Okay, so next week. What role is that?
I play this disillusioned doctor in colonial Africa who just turns to drink and gives up because his life hasn't worked out well. It's about British colonialism. It's about Britain hasn't come to terms with its colonial past, and it's written by a black American woman in the 1960s, and it's fairly scathing about white people, I have to say, of which I'm one. I'm one of the Les Blancs in it.
It was great. I mean, it seems really wonderful to have a female director finally in charge of a female-led action franchise. It's like a really nice thing to have. And she's, great European sensibility, really hard worker. I mean, I have to say, I have a very good experience. Well, I haven't seen it yet, but there's obviously lots of mayhem and various evolutions the character goes through, and new bad guys and new worlds. It's worth going. So.
Yes, I really hope people who avoid period films and Jane Austen films will come out to see it, because it really is a comedy with sort of a modern feel in certain ways. That's not the modern feel where you violate the 18th century. I think it's the modern feel of sort of performing the comedy that was in the original piece. But it really is a comedy and not just, a staid period film, although we had beautiful locations, beautiful costumes, and there are 2 weddings in the movie, so those people who want weddings, if they're there, we just get them over with quickly.
I really liked her. I think she's so funny and awful and great, and it was good. I mean, it just means you've got to kind of really be on top of your lines, because she's thinking on her feet so much. You can never, she's seamless, so you can't see the wheels turning. I mean, I did because Whit is hilariously funny and really clever, and also just the novel itself is super funny, and in fact, much crueler and more extreme than our movie is even. And I was constantly poking Whit with emails saying, can we put this awful thing back in? She says about her daughter. Some of them he did let me. I mean, there's not much. It's fairly faithful to Jane Austen. He's expanded on Tom Bennett's character a bit, which I think was a brilliant idea. And we've sort of neatened up the ending, but I think the ending is perfect, actually.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time.
Lady Susan.
How dare you address me, sir? Be gone, I will have you whipped.
Outrageous. Have you never met him?
No, I know him well. I would never speak to a stranger like that.